Welcome to Power Your Profits podcast, your friendly guide in bringing your business revenue to the next level. Listen as host Susie Carder hears inspiring stories of success from her fellow entrepreneurs and transformational leaders. Prepare to make significant change to your strategies as they unravel the secrets of building multi-million-dollar businesses and the most effective tips on finance, marketing, and sales accountability. If you want to make your first step towards explosive business growth, this is the right podcast for you. Without further ado, here is your host, Susie.
Melinda Cohan is our next guest. She's a CEO of Coaches Consult, a software training and development company that has helped thousands of coaches create profitable and sustainable business. Since 2004, she's helped more than 50,000 coaches start their coaching businesses with confidence, look professional, and stay organized from day one, and how to serve clients better. The heart of Coaching Consult is their technology, a web-based platform that facilitates all tasks necessary to start, manage, and automate your business. Her system is designed for startup coaches that don't have any experience setting up business systems or interest in spending time learning how to do those administrative activities. While their platform is great by itself, we put coaches first and foremost. She knows what it takes for a good coach to accelerate. That's why they offer coaching programs, private coaching, guides. They work with a 7 best practice roadmap for efficient business setup and long-term success. With the help of a dedicated coach, you can find your first or next clients and hone on your marketing strategy and automate all that administrative task and all that follow-up stuff and learn how to scale your business, serve more clients, and earn what you're worth. Please welcome my next guest, Melinda. So welcome to this episode of Power Your Profit podcast. My guest today is Melinda Cohan, and she's a CEO of the Coaches Council. And I have her new book right here, which is so amazing. And we're going to talk about her new book. We're going to talk about what she does in the world. We're going to talk about her badassery, because, I'm only bringing you the badass people who are playing big in the world. So Melinda, thank you for coming. Thank you for being here. We appreciate you. I'm so excited that you're here.
Yeah, thank you. I'm excited to be here with you too.
Awesome. So why don't you share with people what your magic is? Like what is your business? What do you do? How do you do it? What makes you a rock star? Just so they hear from your words.
Yeah, so I'll share a little bit about what I do. And then I love the way you asked that. What is your magic? So I have for 17 years have been helping coaches and service-based entrepreneurs get their business organized behind the scenes so that they can feel confident about what they're doing in the world and just feel confident about putting themselves out there. And so through a software I created, through our training, coaching, tech support, all that stuff, we just make business easy, because a lot of coaches and entrepreneurs out there, they're great at the thing they do. They suck at business. And so that's where we come in. And that's like, I geek out on efficiency, systems, processes. I love having a sexy back end so it can be streamlined. It can be working for me. I don't have to waste all my time doing all the admin burdens and distractions. Like, they got to be done, but we want to work smart about it. So that's what I do. So I've been doing it for 17 years.
17 years, right? So you know why I love her, right? You're singing my words of praise, right? System, strategy. I know people hate it, but it's once you get it in place, you really fall in love with it.
Systems are sexy. Yeah.
They are so sexy. So tell everybody what your software does, because when people hear software, they get scared. That's my experience. Is like when you hear systems, they think it's immediately IT. They don't think of just processes. And then you say software and they're like, oh, that's not for me. So
Right. So the software I created is the Coaches Console. And one of the things that I know about coaches, and coaches they have a special place in my heart because that's the background that I come from, but any service-based kind of entrepreneur, consultants, trainers, speakers, practitioners, like when it comes to our business, we have to be able to leverage technology, but those service-oriented professions don't operate out of the same side of the brain as systems and technology, but we have to leverage it, or you're really just going to have a hobby. You're going to put a cap on your business pretty quickly, and you're not going to be able to grow. You're not going to be able to provide service that gets results for your people. You're not going to be able to deliver on what you promise. So you have to leverage technology. And most entrepreneurs, they love the thing they do so much that they are like, okay, how can I do this thing more? Okay, let me find people so I can coach, or let me find people to do this thing. So now they're getting clients, and that leaves them in this, oh crap, now I got to figure this out. Oh my God, I got to figure this out. And next thing they know, they have about, on average, 9 different technologies behind the scenes running the show. And they don't like technology to begin with. And so that's why I created Coaches Console all those years ago, to everything you need behind the scenes, have it in one platform. So it's all talking to each other and you don't have to figure out how to do it. And that's why I created that, because I know people don't like technology, but you got to use it.
No, they don't. I love it now, right? I had to learn myself. And so
Yeah.
is that how you went from an idea to a multi-million-dollar business?
It is. I started out being a coach. I got fired from my job, had been doing coaching as a hobby because it's just how I show up and work with people. When I got fired, the control freak in me said, you know what? Nobody's going to be in charge of my future like that. I will have my own business. I did not want to be my own business. I didn't want to be an entrepreneur. That was not me. But I started my business, was happy coaching. And then I heard, I call it, I heard a calling. I heard this voice. And I knew enough that when I hear those voices, I pay attention. And so I grabbed a napkin out of my glove box, started writing down the bits and pieces of what I heard, and didn't make much sense at the time, but I kept paying attention and realized I was having a lot of success in my business because of the systems, and the back end was organized, and I felt confident to put myself out there. I didn't like networking, but I did it because I knew I could handle whatever came my way.
I love that you say that you didn't like networking. Like, people just think we love doing that. No, we
Yeah,
just have to
I'm
do
an
it, right?
introvert. That was not my gig. I'm like, yeah, no.
I think it's
Now I
important
love
that
it.
people hear that, because they think, me too, I'm a trained extrovert. Like, I had to learn
Yeah.
how to small talk and, have those conversations. And so
Yeah.
you remove all the minutia because I think a lot of times as entrepreneurs, we bubblegum, shoestring, band-aid, duct tape. Somebody says, buy this software, you buy the software. Oh, you need this plugin, get this plugin. Oh, you need this, right?
Yeah, that's a very hard way to build and grow a business. It's very expensive and very exhausting, not just on your bank account, but on your energy. Like, it's
Yeah.
very draining energetically as well.
And
Yeah.
financially, when you start looking
Yeah.
at all those little line items, like, what is that software? Like, there's
Yeah.
sometimes I'll go through my P&L and I'm like, what is that for?
Why do
Or
we
do we
use that?
use
Why am I
that?
paying for that? Right. And so that's why I created the software, because when I wrote down on the napkin, I had written the words that I heard were eliminate the burdens and distractions.
Mm,
Another phrase that I heard was help them live their God-given potential. Um,
mm.
Another phrase that I heard was do the same for others. I didn't know what all that meant jumbled up, but my coach at the time, I was saying to her, I'm like, oh my God, coaches are so lucky that they get to make so much money doing this thing they love. She's like, well, no, time out there. Most coaches don't experience what you've created. And I'm like, wait, what? And all of a sudden I knew what my napkin meant. I was like, now I'm going to help coaches. But in that moment, I didn't really know what that meant. I just knew I was going to help coaches. The business and the back end was their burdens and distractions. I wanted to help them live their full potential, because I really do believe that coaches and entrepreneurs are changing the face of our world. And if I can
Right.
help them do that, that's what I want to be a part of. And so I just kept listening to that napkin and understanding this. I initially thought I was going to have like a warehouse of virtual assistants to outsource. And I
Yes.
was at a chamber event locally, in line getting a drink. And I was telling this story to a friend, and there was a guy in front of me. He turned around. He's like, now, mind you, this was in 2003 when
Mm.
this was all happening. So this was a long time ago. Feels like forever ago. And this guy in front of me turned around and he's like, I don't mean to eavesdrop, but if you want to reach coaches around the world, you should do it using the intraweb and using a web-based technology. And I'm like, I don't know what that means.
Right.
He's like, come to my office. Because at the time, people were still downloading software and getting a little floppy disk to put on your
Yeah.
computer, right? So he's like, come to my office and I'll show you. And he showed me how we can use the internet and a web-based system where coaches could log in and we could organize their business. I was like, well, that's a lot better than managing a bunch of virtual assistants. So let's do that. And that was the birth of our software. And 17 years later, it's a
Isn't that
multi-million-dollar
great?
business from a
I
napkin.
love it, love it, love it. So many people are struggling right now, and coaches, authors, speakers, right? We have the same market. They're struggling because of the economy and the pandemic, and there's still people, believe it or not, Melinda, that are waiting for
Yeah.
things to get back and get back to normal, which it's not going to happen, right? It's just we have to learn how to do a new way of doing business. So, what's been your secret sauce to staying in action, staying above the noise? Because if you listen to the noise, it can be exhausting,
Yeah.
draining. So, what have you and your team done to just stay ahead of it all?
We started doing this in March last year when we hit that pandemic, we immediately went into this, and I immediately took this to our community, and we tracked it over the course of the pandemic and really saw a difference. And it's really asking two questions. I talk about this in the book because I truly believe these are questions to ask whenever you have your business, whether we're in a pandemic or not. You need to know these two questions. And the first is, what are the new challenges that your clients are facing, the urgent challenges that your clients are facing today that they weren't facing 6 months ago or before the pandemic? Like you all, and with how crazy the pandemic, like we had the lockdown and the quarantine, and then last fall it kind of let up a little bit, and then it went for another resurgence, and then we thought in the spring, okay, June, we're going to be done, we're going to exit this pandemic, and then just kidding, no, we're not, we're going to go right back in it. And then all chaos broke loose, and some are still in the pandemic, some are waiting, some don't give a crap about it, and some are ignoring it. I mean, it is harder now to pivot out of the pandemic than it
Right.
was when we smacked into it. And so to ask yourself that question, what are the new challenges my clients are facing today that they weren't facing 3 months ago, 6 months ago, or before the pandemic, will help you to understand how you are relevant, why you're relevant, what parts of your service, your program, your package, your whatever you're offering, what parts are relevant today, what parts aren't relevant right now. They may come back, but right now they're not relevant. And it helps you as a business owner to make adjustments. It may just be a small adjustment, it might be a big pivot, but we have to be ever changing. And with how quickly the pandemic is changing things, it's a question you need to ask weekly and monthly for sure. And
Right.
I believe we're going to keep asking ourselves this question at least for the next 6 to 9 months. There was a report that just came out this morning that said the pandemic is slowing down, maybe. And so there's a trend, and it's like, will it stay on that trajectory or will it not? Will the COVID cases continue to decrease? What's the impact of the economy? I don't know. But as long as we as business owners can answer this, we will stay on the front end of being relevant to our audience and being there to provide the solutions that they need to navigate the chaos of their lives.
Right. That is delicious. And I know, but just from my own clients, right, seeing they just want to hibernate, right, and stay
Yeah.
away and put their head in the sand and go, I don't want to talk about it. And so you talk about in chapter 4, the entrepreneur's villain. So
Yeah.
first of all, I just love the title. I immediately, I highlighted in the book, and I'm like, well, I gotta go to that chapter because what is the
It's
entrepreneur's
right
villain?
there.
So share with us, like, what is that, and then what do we do? What stops coaches and entrepreneurs, in our business?
So the villain that I write about in chapter 4 is actually one of about 13 villains that I have identified. And then, of course, there's corresponding superpowers. But the biggest one is perfect Portia. And perfectionism is one of the biggest things that stops entrepreneurs in their tracks.
Yes.
And it's when we get into that overwhelm, when we're overwhelmed, when we're burnout, when we're in that intense reactionary mode, trying to tread water, what happens is we start getting in this fight or flight or freeze mode. Like that survival starts kicking in at that point. And it's not like a physical danger, like the lion's going to eat us or somebody's got a gun to our head, but it's the emotional dangers, right? And so we go into that fight or flight or freeze mode, and that fight and flight, that's the perfectionism coming out. It's like, oh my God, I've got to protect myself.
Right.
And so that entrepreneurial villain, Perfect Portia, can creep in, and right on her heels are No Good Ned, Fraudulent Frank, Oliver Overwhelm, Comparison Connie, because we are looking at, well, everybody else is doing fine, I suck, so who am I? And so we start listening to that story, right? That Comparison Connie. Or Fraudulent Franks is like, I don't know what's going on right now. This pandemic has me freaked out just like everybody. Who am I for them? I can't help people. And when we start believing that Fraudulent Frank dialogue or that No Good Ned. And so that's what has us retreating. And when we can, my coach, she dubbed it the itty bitty shitty committee. It's like, okay, when we can just call a timeout on that and say, thank you, just hold off for a second and remember our superpowers, we can really stand in our power. And it's like, we don't have to be perfect, just progress over perfection, right? It doesn't have to be perfect. We just have to keep it going. And we can remember those things that we know that we forget. And so we can not be controlled by Perfect Portia. And there's an important distinction that I talk about, because I used to be controlled by Perfect Portia. And I call myself a recovering perfectionist. And I was really interested because I hold a high standard. If you talk to my team or my family, like I have a high standard. And so there is a very fine line between perfectionism and high standard.
Yes.
Right. And perfectionism is fear driven. High standard is letting your light shine. It's about research and putting yourself out there, being innovative, but not sacrificing quality just to keep going. So that's an important distinction to make as well.
I love all the little names, right? Because then you can identify it. Once you notice it, it can disappear. But
Yeah.
if you're not aware that you're being Perfect Portia or Negative Ned, or
Yeah.
you won't even overwhelmed or overcomplicated Oliver, right? You won't even
Yeah.
realize. You'll just keep doing it as a
Yeah.
habit.
And you can blame it. And then you don't have to have so much shame or judgment or blame about yourself that also keeps us stopped. It's like, oh, Perfect Portia just showed up again, or
Right.
oh, there's Oliver overwhelmed at it again. But you can blame it. It's outside of you, and you have more control over your actions instead of beating yourself up, which just perpetuates the villain. Now you're in proactive mode, and now you're reaching for your superpowers to take those steps forward.
Yeah. So share with us, Melinda, what is one of your, you can call it learning experiences, we can call it failures. What has been your biggest failure to this point in your life? And then what did you learn from that experience?
Oh my goodness, the biggest failure. Well, one of the biggest failures, I'm actually in the middle of learning from it right now. So I'll share this one. It's about this. So this book was a desire that's 11 years in the making. And I had 2 failed attempts at writing it. After the second failed attempt, it's been about 7 years ago since that one. And so this desire has just been kind of in the background, whispering, and it's like, yeah, whatever. I don't need to write a book. Everybody else can write a book. It would have been cool, but I don't. And I just kept trying to talk myself out of it, but it just kept whispering back there. And somebody asked me at the end of last year, do you want to write a book? And I thought I was going to say, I think that desire's gone. I don't think I'm going to, but out of my mouth flew, yes, it's time. I just zing. I just knew it was time. And so I've been really, over the last 9 months that I've written, and because once I got going, it didn't take long. I was really looking back at those 2 failed attempts, and my enthusiasm was getting the best of me. And it was like the fire hydrant. It's like, I've got to give everybody everything I know in one book. And I didn't know how to sort through that intensity and all that stuff. And that was from the first failed attempt. And then the second failed attempt, I remember when I was sitting there and I was really struggling. The first time I was doing it by myself because I didn't want anybody to know I was doing it, because that was still Perfect Portia was alive then. The second failed attempt a few years later, I did reach out for help. I'm like, well, maybe I can't do this on my own. I'll get some help. And I was still just running into these blocks. And I was sitting down in meditation one day, and I heard this voice that said, there's more that you need to live that's going to be in your book. So go live it, and then you can write it. And I was like, okay. And it was just this
That's
surrender.
good.
I was like, all right, I'll trust that. And that was it. And so that was then 7 years. I'm like, don't you think I've learned enough? Don't you think I can write a book? But it really took that perfection of timing and waiting for the right moment. And then the right resources showed up, and and then it just was effortless, and it was a ton of fun. So those are two failures that I've recently been reflecting on.
I think that's important for people that to hear. It doesn't just happen. Like you'll see a book like this book, you go, "Oh, she just wrote it." Like, no, that was 7 years. Well, you were saying that like I started because I know too much, right? That's the challenge of being an entrepreneur, especially a seasoned entrepreneur, is we know too much.
Yeah.
When I wrote Power Your Profits, I'm like, I knew too much. So
Right.
I procrastinated. I started it in 2007. After I sold my company, I started writing that Power Your Profits. It was bootstrapped to big money because we just sold it for 10 million, kind of talking about the story. And then this is my 10th book. So I already knew what it took to publish a
You get
book.
it. Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm not ready to do that. I'm not ready. Like, that's just way too much. And then similar, I gave it to my publisher. She's like, Susie, you're cute. This is 3 books in one. I'm like, I know, but
Yeah.
I don't want to write anymore. I just want
Yeah.
to do this one and be done.
Yeah. My editor was like, why don't we take all of this out? You can do something with this later, but this is what we're going to give to the world right now. I was like, oh my gosh. Oh, and then it was clear, crystal clear. I was
But
like,
just
got it.
it's hard to go, what do I give? What do I not give? And that's the same thing that happens with entrepreneurs. We try to give the kitchen sink and
Yeah.
they're not ready for the kitchen sink. I'm so guilty of that myself. Is I'm
Yeah.
like, wait, there's more. They can't even
Well, we're
take
so
any more.
passionate, and our enthusiasm, it can get the best of us. And when you take that passion and then I don't know what I don't know, and you're in, like, then it's an interesting situation to be
It is a very interesting situation.
in.
So let's talk about your 7 success structures. And I love, right, you're so systemic, like even in our bullets, even what we're talking about. And you guys, what you got to get is systems make it easy. It
Yeah.
makes it so it doesn't have to be as complicated when you follow these 7 success structures. It's like, oh, just do this, right? And I always tell my
Yeah.
clients, just do it and then you'll get it. Quit worrying about doing it and just do it. So, what are the
Yeah.
7 success structures that every coach must implement?
So the 7 success structures really fit it. And first of all, let me say this, because these are true no matter what phase you're in. Every entrepreneur goes through 4 phases. I don't care if you just want 30,000 to supplement a lifestyle you have, or like when I got fired, I just wanted to replace my income. I just wanted to make 50 grand having my own business. I was
Right.
going to be happy as a clam with that, 6 figures, 7 figure, whatever it is. These are the 7. You have to have them. Otherwise it's a hobby. And so you have to pay attention to the systems in branding, in list building, in converting, enrolling, onboarding, supporting, and referring, and scaling. And so there are systems and processes for each of those 7 areas that will take the redundant tasks that you have to do for every single client and automate them, that will take the important tasks that really help prospects get results or clients get results, and make it intentional so that you can get those results from every single client every single time, or that can streamline it so you're not spending too much time on the back end. You've got it handled. You're looking after your prospects, you're growing your list, you're getting your clients, and you're able to put yourself out there and feel confident and be proud of the work that you're doing instead of resenting your passions.
I love it. And so simple, right? Again,
It's so simple. And you're right. When people hear systems or structure, it's like, ugh. And I think a lot of entrepreneurs come from, they had a job, they didn't like it, or it just wasn't their thing, or they got fired from whatever their story is. And as soon as you hear structure, it's like they get sucked right back into that world that they hate. And they're like, no, I am not going back there. And a lot of people associate entrepreneur with freedom, flexibility, being your own boss. And it's true. And you don't have to swing all the way to the extreme, but you have to, like, structure breeds freedom. You
yes.
have to have those base structures in place so you can fully experience the business that you want to have. And the other thing that entrepreneurs say is, well, don't stifle my creativity. Don't put me in a box. Right. And you have to really ask yourself, what's the impact you want to make with your gifts and talents and with the work you're doing in the world? Because the greater degree of impact, you have to also have the greater degree of systems to support that. Otherwise, you're going to keep hitting glass ceilings and wonder, like, why can't I get more clients? Why am I not making more money?
Right.
Why am I working all the time? It's usually not a marketing issue. It's rarely a sales issue. It's a systems issue more times than not.
Exactly. And I find I can be more creative the more structured
Yeah.
I get, because then I don't have to
Yep.
worry about it. It's just being handled. And
Yeah.
then I can truly be in creation. Right. And
Yeah.
a lot of times no one teaches us that. Right. You figure
Right.
it out over lots of failures. And what we're trying to save you, Melinda and myself, is try to save you those failures to go, you don't have to have chaos in order to finally
Yeah.
realize you need structure. I always say, let's
And it,
build it once, build it on cement, not on
mhm,
sinking sand.
yeah.
Only 1.7% of small businesses hit that $1 million mark. That's every business globally. 1.7%, that's bananas, right?
Wow.
When you look at it, like, come on, it's not crowded up here. Why do we have seven-figure businesses? Structure,
Yeah.
system.
We just got to get ourselves out of our own way to get there. And it's the overwhelm, it's the villains that stop us. And it's those systems and structures, that sexy back end that frees you. And when you first get started, a good friend of mine, Ryan Levesque, he shared a quote that hit me like a ton of bricks, and I've loved it ever since. You have to
Emulate.
emulate before you innovate, right? And so you have to learn it and emulate it first so that you understand it and it gets going. And then once it does, then you can innovate and really make it authentically yours, because it's already working and generating results. And that's really, when I talk about the truth behind the business of coaching. We really have to understand the business side of it so we can leverage the marketing of it, and we can leverage our skills that we bring to the people.
Right. What Melinda's talking about is 15% of your financial success is your vocation. The other 85% is what she's talking about.
Yeah.
Right. So when you go, if you don't bring someone on like Melinda, bring the software on, that 85% is arduous. That 85% becomes a huge time suck. And to go, if I want to be really great at what I do, so that 15% I can shine. If you're managing all that in your head, trying to remember, where did I file that thing? Or, did that campaign go out, or did I give that to Melinda, or did I, the systems just really allow that, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So what do you want to be known for in the industry? If you could be remembered for anything,
Ooh,
what's that
anything
one
in the
thing?
industry. Eliminating the burdens and distractions that coaches have around their business so they can feel confident in their business. The mantra I've been saying for the last year is build a better business, and you can be a better coach, and we can build a better world. And that's what I want to be known for. If you're building a business, doing the thing you love, Melinda is your gal. She is the one, like, just that is what I want to be known for.
I love that. It's so simple. So simple.
Yeah.
It's such a big goal. So what's one question, Melinda, you wish I would have asked you?
One question. I will say, what's your favorite chapter from the book? That would have been a question.
Okay. So I'm not answering the question. I'm like, oh, okay, that's the question. Okay. So what is your favorite chapter? I love it. Look how enrolling you are. I'm like, okay, now she turned the tables on me, y'all. So what is your favorite chapter of the book?
My favorite chapter is when I talk about business beyond the masculine. It's the coach, what I call it, the coach approach to how to do business, chapter 5. And I get into business beyond the masculine because so many coaches and other service-based, because we're nurturing creatives, that kind of, we operate from our intuition and that side, compassionate side. The idea of business often feels to people. And I really want people to kind of dissect and discern that old school idea of business out and leave it behind. And when we think about the traditional approach to business, it's a very masculine approach, right? And I'm not talking about male, female, men, women. I'm talking about masculine, feminine. We all have these energies within us. And the masculine energy is that structure, logistics, systems, processes, efficiency, slay the dragon. And when we swing too far into that masculine, that's when it's success at any cost, convince, manipulate, pressure, pushy, like all that icky stuff. And when we bring the feminine into it, that's when we can bring in the nurturing, the creative, the relationship building, the supporting, the intuitive. And most people, because they don't like that old school approach, they swing too far. They're like, I don't need that. I just need this. And so it's all lovey-dovey and happy, and they feel good about it, but they're not growing their list. They're not getting clients. They're not seeing results. It's not predictable and dependable. And so people spend too much time swinging from one to the other. And it's really a coming into the middle, right? If we had that Venn diagram, it's that center where that fierce flow, where you can have sexy systems and creativity and intuition coexist at the same time. And that's really this new way of business. Not really even a new way, just people don't look at it that way. And that's, I have just briefly touched on it, but I have a feeling that I'm going to pull that out and make a whole nother book about it.
Right.
But that is when we can see business, when entrepreneurs can see business in a new way, we can leverage the badassness of the masculine and the badassness of the feminine, and we can bring all of that together. So we bring all of ourselves to our business to serve our clients and do our work in the world.
I love that. That is juicy. That was a good one.
Yeah,
okay,
thanks.
so do you have, I know I want our community to find you, right? And so we can find you on all social platforms, but is it under your name or is it under your coaching? How do we find you on social?
Well, there is a number of ways that you can find me under my name, Melinda Cohan. I'm there. I've got the Coaching Lifestyle is a group where I've got an entire audience that we come together and just talk about all things related to the business of coaching. The book is a great way to do that. And we can get people get the book in their hands. When they get the book in their hands, they also get other resources, complementary resources that go with that. Some of the resources, because the book is not just here's all the strategies you should know. I love learning and doing at the same time, right? And so in the book, it's learn the strategies, best practices, step by step, and then also the resources that you need to actually implement it. So you'll get those resources, and there's a whole toolkit and everything that people can access.
So we'll make sure we get you that link, because when you buy the book through Melinda, right, on her site, we'll get bonuses, right, is what I hear, because we love bonuses and we love prizes. And so
and right now you can get the book, because it's my birthday for my book. You can get the book for free for just a small time frame, but you can get the book for free. But when you go to confidentcoachbook.com/profit, you can get the book and the resources and everything.
confidentcoach.com/resources.
confidentcoachbook.com/profit.
Profit. My favorite word.
I thought you'd like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll make sure that is in the show notes so that you have that and be able to get the book for free, plus the free resources, which I so value that you're giving that to us and our community and our tribe, because they're going to eat you up like a popsicle, because you're just full of knowledge. And I appreciate you being here. I appreciate your time. I appreciate your genius. I appreciate you simplifying our industry. And so I want to make sure that you go find Melinda. Her last name is Cohan. If you're listening to this and you're on the road, right, so that you can get clear, and you can go into the show notes to get the free resources from Melinda and from us. So until the next episode of Power Your Profit podcast, Melinda, thank you for who you are and what you do in the world. I appreciate you.
Susie, thank you so much.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of Power Your Profits podcast. Let these building blocks from today's most successful industry leaders equip you with the necessary resources and tools to finally establish the highly profitable business of your dreams. Want to hear more? Listen to more episodes at https://poweryourprofitspodcast.com. And don't forget to subscribe to the show. Now is your time to rise to the top of your game, so be sure to catch our next episode. Until next time.